Hello, I'm James Bradley, and this is Escherichia coli, the root of microbiological discovery. For this presentation, we'll be taking a look at the bacteria Escherichia coli. It's commonly known as E. coli. It is gram-negative, and it is commonly found in the lower intestines of warm-blooded organisms. This bacterium is enveloped, and it consists of a cell wall, cytoplasmic membrane, and the capsule. Escherichia coli was discovered by Theodor Escherich in 1885. He studied at the Vienna Pathological Institute in 1884, and he began his study about bacterial flora of mother's milk. And this is where he began to focus on pediatrics. So some of his achievements include that meconium was sterile, and that the colonization of the intestine by bacteria in an infant occurred between 3 to 24 hours after birth. That's why it is so important that children are able to latch on early and start to drink mother's milk. Now, everybody has their own kind of viewpoints on whether or not you should do formula, never formula, but I know through personal experience, we always went through, we decided to breastfeed up to 6 months because that's when you get the most benefit from breastfeeding. After that, it kind of dives off a bit, but yeah, that is part of the research that kind of prompted that, and that's why that is part of the common flow today. Through the use of the gram staining technique, which I know we did quite a bit of in our virtual labs, he was able to isolate 19 different bacteria, quite a few of them, including bacilli and cocci and infant stool samples. Okay. Escherichia coli is commonly found in the GI tract, feces of warm-blooded animals. It is a member of the coliform group of bacteria and cannot break down urease. This bacteria is preferred indicator for freshwater recreation. So it's good. I'm talking about some of the pros right now about why E. coli is such an important bacteria and why we use it as we go along in the presentation. We'll talk more about that. For the most part, it is harmless, but there are illnesses that can be caused through E. coli, like meningitis, urinary tract infection, intestinal infections, things of that nature. Recently, there has been a more virulent strand of E. coli that can cause disease and can be fatal in small children and the elderly, like a lot of diseases when your immune system is compromised. If you're really young, the elderly, they have a harder time with these things. But yes, it does have its downside, and we'll talk about that further. All right. Escherichia coli is a rod-shaped gram-negative bacterium that is often used as a model organism because of its ability to grow quickly and its ease of use as a model organism. And that's really important, it being able to reproduce quickly so that a lot of samples and tests can be done on it, and they can be reproduced. Those tests can be reproduced and be used as a control for a lot of things, and which is really important when you're trying to find antibodies, when you're trying to experiment with the different substances to kind of see where they land and how they react to each other, to be able to reproduce those things fairly quickly. E. coli has been used as bioreporters in ecotoxicology as an early warning system. All right, so we're talking about this. We're talking about drinking water, things like that. If by using E. coli, we're able to kind of find these things as they come up. All right. Escherichia coli replicates asexually, allowing modifications made to the genome to be maintained, and therefore the effects seen in these mutants are reproducible. We're going to talk about a few key discoveries in the field of molecular biology, and all of them owe their beginning to Escherichia coli, E. coli. How many times can I say Escherichia coli? Hopefully you're not annoyed yet. Good. All right. So this helped us understand the genetic code. I remember back in the late 80s, early 90s, I think, as when they first started talking about, how long it was going to take to map the human genome and doing that. And at the time, I think they were saying something like 200 some odd years. So I didn't think we're going to get there, at least in my lifetime. But through E. coli, other methods, this definitely being one of the major key factors. We got there quicker. Now we kind of know how it all works, and that's thankful, and that's thanks to this particular bacteria. The creation of genetically modified organisms, okay, as stem cell research, things like that, depending on your viewpoints on it, whatnot. Still, the fact of the matter is, E. coli definitely has been beneficial to us understanding biology. Now, public awareness of the bacteria came about in about 1993. There were some undercooked hamburgers at a Jack in the Box food chain, and it gave E. coli to over 700 people. Now, this was a catastrophic event. It took the lives of 4 children, and this was according to an article in 2005 in Emerging Infectious Diseases. In September 2018, a little more recently, there was a multi-state outbreak in Fort Collins, Colorado. Not as bad, but still 18 people were infected across 4 different states, and the victims ranged from age 1 to 75. All right, artificial intelligence and Escherichia coli. Sean McClain, the founder of AppSy, it's a generative AI drug creation company. He had an idea of finding a way to use E. coli to help improve human health. All right, the AI model that he used was able to speed up the discovery. So generally, when these things happen, when they're trying to discover new antibodies, there's about a 4% success rate, and it takes anywhere from 5 to 5.5 years to come up with something that's viable. With this new AI technology and the using E. coli, they were able to speed that up quite a bit. It went from 5.5 years to 18 to 24 months, and the success rate has gone up from 4%. So it has increased, at least according to McClain himself, which since he's the one saying it. But yes, it's been really beneficial, depending on how it works with fighting antibodies and finding vaccines. I know most recently with what we've been dealing with the vaccines for COVID and things like that. I think using AI and Escherichia coli in moving forward, I think it's going to be really good for us as a species to kind of help find new antibodies at a faster rate so that we can cure diseases with a more focused approach. In conclusion, for all its ups and downs, everything that can go, right or wrong, with different bacteria when you're experimenting with it, I think E. coli will go down in history as one of the most pivotal bacterium that is out there. I like to call it the roux of of microbiology because it is a really strong base, and it allows us to expand and create. I want to thank you again for having us this semester. This again has been Escherichia coli, the roux of microbiological discovery, and I have been James Bradley. Thank you.